Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Safety Training, Delivering Targeted Content Across an Evolving Workforce. My name is Bob Kimball. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Dakota Software. I'll be your moderator for today's event. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for joining us. We decided to do a webinar on this topic because we're getting a lot of questions from our clients about workplace safety training courses and how they can help them to improve their safety and compliance program. Today's agenda, which includes presentations from Dakota speakers, as well as an overview of our online safety and compliance training solution, will last approximately 50 minutes. Due to the large number of participants, all attendees are muted. We do welcome your questions, though. Questions can be submitted at any point during the presentation through the Q&A window. We will answer questions at the conclusion of the presentation. All right, so our speakers, as I said, I'm the Director of Marketing at Dakota. I'm going to kick things off by sharing some information about Dakota and how our compliance-focused solutions can help companies effectively manage their safety programs. We also have Mark Judy, who is Dakota's training lead. He not only leads in the training of our software products for our users, but he also has a background in training and learning with multiple organizations. He's going to share with you some common challenges associated with training and specifically adult learning. And then also joining us is Cody Burke, our solutions consultant extraordinaire. He is going to provide you with an overview of Dakota's online safety and compliance training solutions and demonstrate how it can help overcome some of these training challenges. So I want to start by referencing OSHA's training requirements booklet. I'm sure a lot of the people on the call are familiar with it. It describes how training is central to OSHA's mission of ensuring the protection of workers, preventing work-related injuries, illnesses, and deaths. A quote from this guide is on the screen here. Obviously, OSHA believes strongly that strong training programs will pay back over time. So it's a good training program will result in, yes, fewer injuries and illnesses, but also increased morale, lower costs around injuries and illness, insurance premiums, etc. So I don't think that's a surprise to anyone on the call. The same document, of course, outlines more than 100 OSHA standards that have training requirements. So you add to that EPA, Department of Transportation, other agencies, and you look across all of your locations and who have differing operations, different processes, and it can become quite daunting to keep up with the training and making sure that the people on your teams are getting the right training. So identifying site-specific requirements is step one, and of course there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can reference Federal Register guides like this one. You can work with consultants. You can work independently with your site team leaders, or you can take advantage of technology. So I want to kick it off real briefly, talking a little bit about Dakota before we move into the training component. Oh yes, and step one is definitely identifying those requirements across all of your locations, and this is where Dakota comes in. So we've been in the space for more than 30 years. I know that not everyone on the call is familiar with Dakota. So just to share a brief background. It's our mission really to help our clients protect their workers as well as keeping the environment safe. The environment clean. We've been doing this for a long time. We came into the space with environmental auditing tools. We shifted our focus to a proactive compliance movement, and obviously the first part of that is beginning with profiling of the regulatory requirements that apply to individual sites. So this profiling capability is enabled by a regulatory database on board in our product. This database is maintained by an in-house team of regulatory experts. And this, of course, includes training requirements across all of the agencies I mentioned earlier. So our team reviews the Federal Register, translates this information, categorizes the content, adds it to a regulatory database so our clients can use it in their compliance planning and auditing tools. And so that content is one of three pieces of our core solution. The Proactivity Suite is our software. We also have a team of EHS practitioners who can help our clients to effectively take advantage of the solution. So all this coupled together, it really becomes a driving force. This content integration becomes a driving force for compliance programs. And so included in the system is tasks, compliance profiling capability, and then of course audit checklists. So tying this back in with the training requirements, as mentioned, there's 100 plus OSHA standards that contain training requirements, and I'll just kind of go really quickly through how these requirements work in with our product. So at the core, it provides a structured regulatory hierarchy for identifying requirements. So in our world, green triangles are things that apply, gray domains are things that don't apply, and yellow are things where clients don't quite know that applicability hasn't been determined. So we start clients off with applicability exercise. They answer yes, no questions. If they're not quite sure of a requirement, that onboard regulatory content is right at the ready, and they can reference that regulatory library if subject matter is outside of their expertise, if they're looking for clarification, and that of course helps them guide in the applicability analysis. So as they go through, they can determine that a particular domain is applicable to them. We can see that there's a training component to that. And so again, they can help them identify that this does indeed apply to them. And what this does is it creates at the site level a profile of all the requirements, including training, that apply to that site. And then that library really helps them to identify who needs to be trained, how often they need to be trained, when they need to be trained, and what they need to be trained on. Of course, regulations also change. So the system, as it's updated, notifies our users of changes with little green triangles noting where regulations have changed, green text in the citations and in the database itself indicating exactly what has changed. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that auditing, our flagship product, also takes advantage of the same structure for conducting audits. So your sites can assess their compliance with their training programs and doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. So what about the safety and training content, which is where we began here? So because our library is focused on the requirements, we sought out a partner who could do something similar to what we do, but who has subject matter expertise in training. So we partnered with a company called Marcom, who's been in the space for 35 years. They specialize in producing training courses that are accurate and entertaining. They have a couple of innovative technology formats that we're going to highlight for you. And for those who are familiar, their courses are SCORM compliant, meaning that they can be integrated into any modern LMS. And if you're not using a learning management system right now, we'll demonstrate what Dakota can offer along side by side with this content. So when you roll that back into the course solution, we've basically pulled in compliance and safety training courses as part of our offering. So all that said, long setup, I know. I'm going to turn it over to Mark Judy now, our training lead, who's going to walk you through some of the challenges associated with safety training. So take it away, Mark.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Bob. What we want to start with looking at here is overall, what are we expected to do from a workplace safety training aspect? So workplace safety training aims to provide our workforce with the knowledge and skills to perform their work in a way that's safe for them and for their coworkers. And we do that by, one, making sure that we have the ability to warn and alert our employees to a hazard before it happens. So teaching them how to recognize hazards that might be coming up and how to potentially proactively prevent hazards. We also need to be able to train them how to handle a situation during an actual incident. What are the first steps they should be taking, plus also too, any of the procedures that we might have for logging an incident, making sure that we have that information. And then of course, we also want after the incident, the ability to easily let the rest of the team know that something occurred and how we can avoid it in the future. So example, if we have a slip and we want to let people know why there was a slip in the middle of the warehouse floor, what was the spill, how can we prevent the spill, how can we prevent the slip in the future. Also, sorry, my screen. There we go. We also want to look at the characteristics of sound training programs, and specifically OSHA calls out some of the most important things that are needed within a sound training program. One of those pieces is accuracy. Being able to have materials that are prepared by qualified individuals that are updated as needed. We also want to make sure that our programs are credible, that they're facilitated by individuals who have safety background and experience in training adults. Now, the challenge there can be that a lot of times when we're working with our team members, we may have the individuals who have the safety background, but not necessarily the training experience, or vice versa. We want our training programs to be clear. We want to make sure that they're easily readable. They also have language choices that match our intended audience. So if we have English as a second language participants, we want to make sure that we are reaching them in a language that's comfortable and that's being used on a daily basis. And then finally, making sure that our programs are practical. We want to make sure that we're presenting the information, ideas, and skills that participants will see as directly useful in their working lives. We don't want to be giving them information that is high level or theoretical that doesn't necessarily relate to their very specific jobs, because we want to make sure that we're keeping them engaged throughout the training. Now, one of the core challenges that we all are facing as we're dealing with safety training nowadays is the evolution of safety training and where we're going. The first is new technologies. As the last year and a half, as we've all been dealing with different aspects of the pandemic has shown, there are a lot of new technologies out there for being able to reach our learners. So understanding which technologies we can use, which ones meet the needs of our team, and also don't distract from our overall training message is something that we need to be aware of. We have more and more remote workers coming out of these situations, as well as many deskless workers who are on the go constantly. So how do we reach them? You know, if our traditional training model is to reserve a training room in our plant and have all of our groups come in, how do we reach these people who aren't physically at our locations in a way that engages them and makes sure that they're getting all of the content that they require? And then the last thing is that there's really a focus on the speed of training in the new evolution of safety training. The idea that we don't have that hour to take everybody off the floor and have them sitting in a conference room for training, that is affecting our overall effectiveness on the job. And also too, that it's not reaching our team members in a way that engages them and keeps them going. But at the same token, if we only focus on the speed of training and we just keep doing it faster and faster, we might suffer, or we might cause a problem with the thoroughness. And when we're dealing with safety training, being thorough, making sure that we're understanding all of those procedures is a very important part of the process. Now, we'd love to think that those are the only challenges that we have to training, but the reality is that we also have training challenges that are focused specifically on our learners as adults. Adults have a different way and a different method of receiving information than we did when we were in college, in high school, or even in grade school. Some of those ideas are that, first off, adults they want to be more independent. You know, a lot of our traditional training methods are very dependent, where we want to be able to learn changes. We want to be able to move from an instructor-led approach to a more self-directed approach. You know, watching someone stand in front of a room and just tell us what we're supposed to know doesn't always engage us in the way that we could actually, if we can touch it, feel it, work on it. Adults want and are ready to learn when there is a reason. Such as when it's directed towards the growth and development that's related to their work. They want to know that what they're sitting through and what they're working on is going to directly affect them, the success of the business, and the success of the overall team. And then last of all, as adults, we want to know that what we're learning is going to be actually applicable to our everyday lives, instead of just being general learning about a subject. We want to learn the practical skills that help us solve problems and work better, and not just things that check off a requirement or fill a time slot of training for the quarter. Now, as we move into that, a lot of times people are addressing these types of challenges with what's called blended learning. We're also leveraging things like video learning. Now, video learning is a great technology. It covers some of the challenges that we're talking about, the ability to actually reach a group in smaller segments of time, the ability to make a more consistent message across a group. But one of the challenges is we can't directly translate classroom learning directly to video training. So think of it this way. If I'm in a live classroom setting and I'm sitting there for an hour's worth of training, if I switch that over to a video that's an hour in length, studies show that the attention span of adults who are watching those videos drop well below 50% after just 5 minutes of watching that video. So if I have an hour's worth of content, trying to have everybody sit down and just watch that hour all at one time is not going to be effective. And this chart that you see here on my screen actually shows how that drop happens as each individual time frame goes by, and they can be substantial drops even at 5-minute points and markers throughout your presentation. Now, when we go the other side, when we're talking about that very traditional training, that classroom training, we know that the average number of time that an employee trains annually is well over 30 hours of time, and that fewer than 15% of those people successfully apply what they learn. So why is that? We're spending this time, we're setting out this time for training. Why are we having so much difficulty with the overall application? Well, that leads to a different concept for adult learning, which is what we call the 90-20-8 rule. So what the 90-20-8 rule states is that when you sit a group down for in-person classroom training, in the first 8 minutes they're in that course, they're at their peak energy level. So they're focused, they're ready to hear what's going on, they're ready to hear exactly what we're going to be working on and how we're going to get that done. But after 20 minutes, all of the neurons in our brains actually start to experience a noticeable drop. And that's because adults have conflicting priorities. Where they're in the training session, they're sitting there, they start to remember the emails that haven't been answered, the tasks and the responsibilities out on the floor that still need to be worked on. And so those things start to creep into their overall attention span as to what's happening in our training environments. And then overall, that 90 refers to when an adult learner really almost shuts off. The reality is that after 60 to 120 minutes, alertness in a classroom setting just completely collapses. So in many cases, if we're having classroom training, we need to be thinking about if we've got content that's more than 90 minutes, where do we put in breaks? How do we let adults get up, move around, check in on those emails and those tasks so that they can feel comfortable to reset for that next 8 minutes, 20 minutes, 90 minutes. We still have more training challenges, and those are specific to our industry, working with environmental health and safety. One, and Bob called this out in his introduction, is just the straight number of standards that we need to keep accurate, credible, clear, and practical. There are so many different regulations, so many different things that are happening, and they're constantly changing. So how do we keep on top of that? How do we make sure that we're always delivering the most credible and accurate information? The second is that development of a consistent message. Like we said, when we bring everybody into the classroom and we have one person in front of them, then we know that one person is delivering the message. We might be able to make sure that that one person is an appropriate trainer, has all the information at their disposal, and be able to deliver that message. But what happens when we have multiple facilities and we can't travel, or we don't have the ability to have that same training presence in every room? And the reality is our human trainers are human. So each presentation is a little bit different. So how do we make sure that it's consistent across the board? And if we're using multiple different trainers, how do we make sure they're all following the same plan, using the same reference material, and putting it across the same points? We also want to try to avoid our adult learning hiccups that are related to, like we just talked about, attention, but also retention and then resentment. Resentment is the idea that, adults, if they have to sit down in a training, a lot of safety training concepts are done over and over again. They have to be refreshed every year. They have to be refreshed every quarter. And we have to make sure that we're doing that. And we have a very real reason to do that in order to meet our regulatory requirements. But however, that team member who might be sitting in that chair has 5, 10, 15 years of experience is going to build up some resentment to sitting through the same training, the same information year after year. So how do we address that? How do we help those team members to get the information they need for now, but also leverage the knowledge that they've gained just from working within the industry? Another big challenge is how we coordinate our training schedules. Like we talked about, pulling everybody off the floor for an hour at a time to do a training session can be quite difficult. Trying to realize what kind of information we can get across, but the effectiveness of our departments, the efficiency of our overall workloads and our shifts when we pull everybody into different rooms can be quite difficult. And also making sure that we are meeting all of the needs of all the different schedules that are happening across our team in order to make sure that this important required training is being done and completed on time. And then the last, and maybe one of the biggest ones that's just a challenge as we're working through with different technologies and different methods, is how do we administer the tests and capture the results that come from these training classes? In many situations, it's not enough just to say that someone sat in a training, but we need to know how competent they were. How much did they retain? And are they ready and able to do those tasks when they return to the floor? So being able to track the completed training and those results becomes a very important part of the process. So I've kind of set the table for you with quite a few challenges. So at this point, I'm going to actually turn this back over to Bob, and he's going to transition us into our next topic of how we can address some of these challenges.
Okay, thank you, Mark. That was a lot of great information. I'm now going to go ahead and turn it over to our solutions consultant, Cody Burke, and he's going to walk you through how Dakota Solution can help you overcome some of these challenges. So Cody, I'm going to give you control. Take it away.
Very good. Thanks a lot, Bob. Thank you, Mark, for that very insightful information. Notice my piece comes in at about 20 minutes. So looking at the 90-28, well, hopefully all your neurons are still firing at the appropriate level here. To start, as Mark mentioned, we're gonna start to introduce some of the solutions that Dakota offers to help solve these challenges that Mark just introduced. So to begin, we're going to start up here at the top. I've kind of drawn the box around the first two bullets: number of standards to keep accurate, credible, clear, and practical. And related to that, delivering a consistent message with the training that you're offering across your organization. So Dakota provides a solution that helps you to deliver a consistent message, allowing employees to consume the same information from the same source. So we offer a full library of training course topics designed to consistently deliver the information employees need to safely and productively conduct their work. So there's over 170 course topics that cover OSHA and other industry standards, as you all see here listed. These are kept accurate, credible, clear, and practical by our production partner, Marcom. These courses are produced entirely in-house by staff that researches subject matter, writes original content, shoots and edits high-definition video, and offers the final product in multiple formats. This has led to a reputation, as Bob pointed out earlier, for training content that is both accurate as well as entertaining. In fact, OSHA itself has used these courses to train their own inspectors on several important regulatory topics. The next piece or challenge, I should say, that we're going to cover would be avoiding adult learning hiccups related to attention, retention, and resentment. Now, in order to address these specific challenges, we're introducing multiple formats of the training content, which will directly address attention and retention issues, as well as the risk of resentment when delivering the same training material over and over again. The first format we'll introduce is called full-length interactive. It's probably the format you're most familiar with to those that have used online training in the past. It delivers consistent messaging through these online interactive courses that will enable you to deliver this consistent level of training to all employees across the organization, across multiple facilities. Offers configurable quiz settings that will ensure employees are kept engaged during the learning process through targeted instruction and quizzing to hopefully improve retention of the information that's being consumed. There are multiple streaming options, including the interactive, which offers the built-in quizzes, but also a video on demand format, which is essentially streaming full-length video over the internet. It's great for if you do still intend to gather employees in a classroom or group setting to offer the training material. Now, these full-length courses tend to be longer and can conflict with the attention issues Mark pointed out earlier. So Dakota Software always recommends combining them with other format options, such as the next that I'm going to be introducing, microlearning. Microlearning enables employees to complete mini 3 to 5 minute courses by breaking these full-length courses into the smaller segments. It promotes employee engagement with these shorter sessions to retain more information, essentially using that 90-28 rule to our advantage. It's accessible and specifically formatted for use on mobile devices like a tablet or a smartphone, which is great for remote training sessions between tasks or maybe at the end of a break, helping to recapture some of that lost productivity. Of course, the structured curricula will maintain its integrity to the regulatory requirements by grouping these courses under the related topics to still satisfy these hundreds of OSHA requirements that ask you to conduct this training. Some practical use cases for microlearning. First, we have called just in time. So one of the challenges Mark introduced related to adults wanting to learn when there is a reason. So because microlearning courses are short and concise, they can be assigned or even pulled on demand by an employee right at the moment that they are needed, such as when handling and storing a new hazardous material, in this example. Another use case for microlearning would be as a quick corrective or preventive action tool. So you can assign maybe a quick corrective action on the mechanics of safe lifting, or maybe a preventive training on heat-related illnesses to raise awareness during a heat wave. That's a couple of examples. Now, the last slide we'll cover on microlearning is a recap of the benefits. So one, increases retention. So again, as I mentioned, we're using that 90-28 rule to our advantage here. We're keeping these videos, these courses below 8 minutes when our attention span is at its peak, allowing us to retain as much information as possible. They're more accessible, designed for multi-device delivery, designed for quick corrective or preventive actions or just-in-time learning, allowing you to reinforce primary training by easily delivering this information, maybe on a more repetitive basis, which again will help to retain information in the long run. So the last format we'll introduce today is adaptive learning. This format takes advantage of an employee's existing knowledge to create training courses that are specifically customized for that employee and don't reteach them things that they think they already know. So it reduces the risk of resentment, that challenge that Mark introduced earlier when an employee has had some tenure at your organization, is very familiar with their role and the training that comes along with it. It actually will present them with a series of quick questions in the beginning, allowing them to basically document that they have all of the required knowledge of that subject, and giving them the ability to skip out of certain course topics that would ultimately be covered. So typically, this saves about 50% of an employee's time in training. To give you a quick example of what this looks like for an employee taking an adaptive learning course, so they'll be presented with a window such as this, which is notifying them that they will be taking a test to assess their knowledge of the various topics that are addressed in this course. Based on the results of the test, the course will be reconfigured to skip chapters on topics where they have demonstrated the required knowledge. So they'll be presented with a series of questions, such as the example you see listed here. The questions range multiple choice, like you see here, true, false, or select all that apply. By the end of that exercise, they might see a screen such as this, which is notifying them of the reconfigured course and the chapters that they were able to successfully test out of. If they're really lucky, they might get a screen like this saying, congratulations, you answered everything correctly. You successfully completed, in this case, manual pallet jack safety without actually having to spend time watching the video. So to recap the benefits of adaptive learning, again, we're avoiding resentment. We're not rehashing what employees already know. If they can demonstrate that they have a full understanding of the topic, then they have the opportunity to test out of the course completely, which in turn increases productivity. We're saving time by not delivering unnecessary training. And it offers a personalized approach to training and learning management by tailoring the courses to the learner and the information that they're familiar with. Okay, so moving on to the last set of challenges that we're going to highlight today: coordinating training schedules, administering tests, capturing results, tracking completed training. So these are all administrative in nature, can be handled through a system or a software. As Bob mentioned earlier, the courses that we offer are formatted in a way that they can be uploaded directly into an existing learning management system if your organization has one in place. So that's one option for you to take advantage of these courses and formats that we just described. Another option is to actually utilize our coursework LMS that can be packaged and combined with the content that you're able to subscribe to. Courseworks offers configurable courses and curricula, allowing you to set the parameters as far as testing and passing courses go, and the information that's collected along the way, as well as the curricula that you would use to assign employees to the various courses that are offered. Multiple scheduling options we'll be presenting today, including one-time or reoccurring training, as well as maybe the quick corrective action or just-in-time type training that we've covered as a use case specifically for microlearning. And then, of course, it comes with smart tracking and reporting features that allow you to visualize in dashboards the current state of your training program, but also generate all sorts of reports that are capturing information related to completion scores, overall status of courses that are offered, as well as even getting into the details of questions that are being answered during the courses and the percentage of those questions that are being answered correctly by individual employees. Okay, so just give us one moment and we're going to do a quick screen transition so that I can share my screen and show you all a demonstration of this. All right. Okay, so I'm going to log in to Courseworks here. We'll see as I log in that I land here on my dashboard, which gives me as an administrator of this learning management system insights into my licensing usage, total employees that have a login, course assignments, those that are not started versus completed versus in progress or failed at the top right here. I can see user activity over the last week, including incompleted courses, past failed courses, and I can also see course utilization. So of all the courses that I have access to through this software, how many are we actually using across our employee base? Now, across the top, we have tabs to all of the functions that we would be taking advantage of in a system like this. I'm going to start here in course configuration. You can see under this tab, based off of the types or formats that you've subscribed to, you'd have options to the various options, including full length, micro, video on demand, and adaptive learning. Here you have the ability to view these courses in either English or Spanish. So we do support both the common languages here. And they're structured and grouped in a way to be easily accessed. So if we're looking under regulatory compliance, you can see aerial lifts as the first option here. When I check this box, I have all sorts of configuration options. So it's telling me at the top that there are 38 course test questions available. These come with the course. These are written to satisfy and relate to the video that's being offered. And the standard setting for this course is that 10 post-test questions are delivered to the employee, and they got to answer 8 of them right in order to successfully pass this course. You can see some other settings allow you to see a test summary. You can actually enable certificates to be downloaded by the employees with their proof that they passed the course and their name and the company signature. You can allow open enrollment to let users register themselves for various courses. So if you're offering courses that maybe aren't required for a specific employee's role, but it could be a nice to have to let them consume that information if they'd like to, you can actually set it to allow them to open enroll themselves. You can also collect detailed user interactions, like I mentioned in one of the report options, to actually see test results and quiz results and the percentage of questions that are being answered correctly the first time. And the next tab will look at curricula configuration. So this allows you to essentially group courses into a single curricula, allowing you to assign and manage employee course requirements through simply assigning them to that curricular option. So really easy to create a curricula. You just enter the name of the curricula here, and then it'll allow you to add the various courses and control the settings of that curricula. So one example I have here is the warehouse curricula. Over to the left, shown in purple, we have the various courses that are already assigned to this curricula. We can easily add additional by checking the box here and updating the curricula. We have some other functions we can take advantage of, such as setting a course sequence. So for example, if I wanted safe lifting to be the first course taken for this curricula at all times, I can actually set that as number 1 in the sequence. I can also set course requirements, maybe first aid. If this is an optional course as part of this curricula, I can make this optional while keeping the rest of it required. Here under scheduler, I have the ability to schedule these courses to be taken by specific users or types of users. And I can do this by the course options that are available, or again, by the curricula that I've created. So if we keep focusing on the warehouse curricula and I want to assign it maybe to this person, Chris Trans, I'll check the box for Chris Trans, check the warehouse curricula. We'll enter a start date. Maybe I want this to be assigned July, and it's going to repeat every year in July indefinitely. We'll update the schedule. It'll give you a notification that this user has been assigned to the warehouse curricula. And we can actually display schedules here within the software as well. So depending on the different boxes you've checked under curricula, courses, and employees, you'll be able to see a full summary of the schedules that exist within the database. Now, from a maybe a just-in-time or corrective action perspective, this enroll tab here gives us the ability to assign these courses on more of a one-off basis. So here I can maybe assign a micro-learning course specific to, let's say, lifting. So I'll search down here for the safe lifting group. But I want this to be very specific to maybe the mechanics of safe lifting. So rather than asking this employee who maybe has recently injured themselves because of improperly lifting, a full course, I just want them to consume a quick 3 to 5 minute summary of the mechanics. So I'll go ahead and select the employee, enroll them in this course as a one-time offering. Now, the last thing we'll point out here before we end the demonstration are the reports. So the system comes with a full set of available reports allowing you to take advantage of all the data that's being collected. So for example, if I select all of the information here and I come here and I look at the completion scores, I can do this for a specific date range. So in this case, maybe we do year to date. Hit get report. This is going to give me a full report of all of the courses that have been consumed year to date and the percentage of test completion that they were able to get to satisfy that course requirement. A couple other report options maybe to highlight here include the incomplete curricula. So if somebody accessed a curricula and didn't complete that course, you can see a detailed per user question summary, which is going to show you the number of attempts essentially that an employee has taken for a particular question. So Mary Brecker in this case has attempted to answer this specific question 7 times and has not yet created a correct response. Okay, so those are just a couple examples of the types of reports that are available in this system. And to conclude, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Bob will bring up the presentation. So again, coursework's designed to provide you with a satisfactory learning management system to deliver all of the various formats that the Coda software offers. If you want to preview any of these courses, we do have them available on our website. You can see the URL posted at the top there. This gives you access to the full-length video for each of the course topics that we offer for preview purposes, so you can get a feel for the thoroughness and entertainment value provided through these courses. And I think that does it.
Okay, thank you very much, Cody. Thank you, Mark. We are going to move on to Q&A in a second here. I'd like to remind everyone that you can put questions through the Q&A pod, and we'll get them to them in a second. As people do that, we'd like your feedback on how this webinar met your expectations. So I'm going to launch a short survey. If you can take a second to complete that, that will help us to craft better and more compelling webinars in the future. And also give everyone just a second to go ahead and put any questions through that you have. We have a couple already that we'll move on to in just 1 second once the poll is complete, once the survey is complete. So I'm going to give everyone just 1 more minute to go ahead and answer the survey questions. And we'll keep that up, and I think we'll move on to our first question then. And so Mark and Cody, I'll pose this to both of you, or you guys can take both respond, or you know, whoever thinks they have the best response to it. The first one's pretty simple. How often are the courses updated?
So the courses are actually reviewed on a regular basis. So it could be one based off of any regulation changes that are happening. Those courses are immediately evaluated, but the entire curriculum is evaluated on a rotating basis constantly. We're looking for things like, again, the consistency, also the relevance and the timeliness of the actual material. You know, we're very aware of the idea that if you're watching a video and everybody is wearing clothes from 1970 and we're in the 2020s, that affects your credibility for the material and also the engagement. So even down to those specifics, we're reviewing that content throughout the year and then making those updates as appropriate.
It's not just updates to existing courses. We're also adding new material, new courses on a regular basis. Like, for example, throughout 2020, there were multiple courses offered specifically related to COVID-19 that our clients could take advantage of.
Great. Okay, thank you. Another question around the adaptive courses. Someone wants to know if all the adaptive courses give users the ability to test out of them.
They actually do. So all of the adaptive courses are designed under the idea that if we answer the questions that are at the beginning and we're able to answer them all completely, then we essentially test out of the content. Currently, there aren't any content areas that have any required viewing, for example, and what I mean by that is that even if we test it all out, that there is a particular part of the content that still needs to be reviewed. However, if that situation did occur, then those classes or those courses would be updated as need be. But currently, all the adaptive courses, you have the ability to answer all of the questions at the beginning and essentially test out of the training.
Okay, thanks. So it looks like the survey responses are complete. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and give everyone just another minute to submit a question. All right. Okay, we do have another question around pricing. How are the courses priced by user, by location, etc.?
I think I can take that one. Essentially based off of number of employees that we need access to the courses. Now you do have the ability to purchase or subscribe to specific formats of your choice. So we do offer some discounts when bundling multiple formats into the same subscription.
Okay, and I'll pause for one more moment to see if there's any last minute questions. All right, we do have another question around languages. Are the courses offered in different languages around the world, or is it English only?
Currently, they're offered in both English and Spanish.
Okay. All right, well, it looks like that's going to do it, and we are right at our 50-minute mark. So I want to thank Cody and Mark for those great presentations today. And thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules for joining us. We hope you found this information informative. And if you have any questions at all, you can please feel free to reach out to us at the information on your screen. And as Cody pointed out, those courses are all available. All 170 plus courses are available to preview on the website. So you can look at those courses in their entirety. So thanks again to everybody for joining us. And we will, and we'll break now. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.